Say that again.
Let's just do it.
Okay.
Do it now.
Greetings, friends. This is the Long in the Boot podcast, the podcast coming to you from the heel of the boot of Southwest Louisiana. And sitting across the way from myself would be Deb.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Hello, community.
It's good to see you again.
Oh.
And
you see me 24/7.
If you'd like to get a hold of Long in the Boot, the email longintheboot@gmail.com. Website is, as always, longintheboot.com. And the phone number 337-502-9011. And you can text that number too, by the way. So if you don't want to have your voice captured, you can text us as well.
I don't know. I think the modern generation doesn't mind their voice, their image, their likeness, their avatar, everything.
Well, no, everybody's going to create the avatar that they're the happiest with.
For the metaverse. We're getting ready.
I'm on a little.
I'm getting ready.
Yeah, the metaverse.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for Facebook to shift over completely. Online presence of all of that is meta. It's just meta now.
I'm already tired of the word.
Suddenly I have at 3 metas in, I have to go, oh wait, they're talking about Facebook. Okay, I got it. It's going to take me a minute to transition.
It's going to be the Facebook, the face bag, whatever. It's going to go away is what's going to happen.
Oh, it's going to merge into something else. All right, we've just already transitioned into nothing that we needed to talk about. Okay,
that's true.
So we're at the beginning of the show. This is where we do personal stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so I got nothing personal against you, though.
I should hope not. Again, our listening community knows 24/7 we are in each other's company for the most part.
Well, you couldn't ask for better.
I
was talking about me. Anyway.
All right, G-Long, you're just asking for trouble now. Asking for trouble. Okay.
It must be so great to be you, being able to talk to me.
Yeah. You people know the truth. I thought last time that we have gotten enough new community members that we needed to like address again kind of what is our theme, what is the common thread to each topic, because other than the fact that we've talked about it and it interests us and we go look about it and well, yeah, we find a seed and we try to
find out
hash it out.
Yeah, and try to find out some past info on that seed.
Yeah, a little bit of the history.
And a little bit of how it affects us now.
Yeah, and then how it affects us personally.
And sometimes personally, and also where it might go.
And where the future might be of it. The meta.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like the meta.
But I don't want to talk about that.
No, you don't want. We've done social media. Well,
I want to talk about something that Meta may very well
have put a kibosh on.
Yeah. And that's truth.
Truth.
Just truth.
Truth, justice, and the American way. I don't know what the American way is anymore, though. That's kind of the problem.
They dropped that, now with Superman. It's truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, I think, is...
Is he building back better, too?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And also that the idea of saying American way marginalizes, everybody else.
Everybody who's not American.
Somehow it marginalizes the majority of the world.
But do you think immigrants that come to our country and make a living here and make a life here, they consider themselves Americans?
Yeah, I would think so. Especially if you work to get it. I mean, why wouldn't you? But Americans is, we use that term
as if it's something grand.
But a guy from any other country in North or South or Central America or even North America can say I'm an American, and they're vaguely correct. We're just regionalizing it. We use the term American to mean this geographical area.
To me, it's a general term. Yeah, it encompasses the whole country,
and it's easy. I don't, because if we don't say we're an American, then we have to draw this whole thing out. I am a citizen.
So then you say every single thing you are. Yeah, Bella's.
I hear it.
She's going, nope. Mm-mm.
She's being abusive.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
All right. Now we've done that.
We've
truth. Explained to our country or our new community.
Yeah, truth. What the question we had a lot of questions actually when we started looking into this, and I don't know that we can cover everything in one show, to be perfectly honest.
Well, we always say that
because truth. Well, that's safe. It's basically making little places where we can have a future show when we can't come up with an idea. Shush.
I am never at a want for ideas.
Don't pull the curtain back.
I always have something that we can talk about.
Oh, that's true. You're always full of ideas.
I'm the idea man. All right.
So I guess first thing we need to do is let's define truth.
Yeah. Give us the Webster's. Webster's
right.
Is our go-to still for the American.
Yeah.
language.
Well, this is actually, I went to Oxford. I went to the Oxford.
The OED.
Yeah.
All right.
It's easier.
And took it back to its roots?
Well, not necessarily all the way to its roots, because that gets kind of convoluted and complicated.
I'm always interested in that, though.
But, well, hang on. Okay, so truth. Here we go. The quality or state of being true. Well, that doesn't help. What's truth?
It's being true.
Something being true.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. The next one. That which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. Well, why couldn't you have just said in accordance with fact or reality? Why did you have to say that which is true? Truth. We know that's what the word means. That which is true. We get it.
But the reality part, what is reality now?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And finally, a fact or belief that is accepted as true.
Okay.
That brings up some interesting kind of.
Well, because they threw belief in there.
Yeah, as far as where the word comes from, it's Old English, Middle English, it's Old German as well, and Old Saxon. They've got bunches of words that all are spelled very similarly and probably would have sounded very similar, be it whether it was in England or if it was in Germany or if it was in Norway. And it's the word. One of the words is truge, but the idea is having good faith. And the word is also derived from a word that means tree, and a tree was considered steadfast. That
it was always okay, except in Louisiana during hurricane season.
Well,
so they probably would have been developed for bargaining for.
Well, they came
situations where they had to have some sort of agreement,
right? But as we know, truth is always, as we're going to talk about, kind of a hard target to hit. And what happened with the Germanic English is it split, and I'm not going to get into the pronunciations or anything, but they created two forms of truth.
Okay.
They had one which was fidelity and one that was factuality.
So fidelity meaning in the family relationships.
Right. Family
domestic.
Or warrior, but basically putting your honor. It's the idea of fidelity. It's what you believe. It's truth to your whoever. Whereas factuality was something that was considered just, it's obvious. Like, this is a table. That's factuality.
That's factuality.
That's truth, but it's factual truth.
Okay.
The other one is the one that requires effort, if you think about it, fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't say this table has fidelity. It's just a table. Fidelity comes from something, a bond of some sort.
Okay.
So it has a lot of, and then there's some stuff about the Greeks and the people from India, Sanskrit, that all of these kind of coalesce around these two things. Fidelity, which is being true to yourself and to someone else, and factuality, which is something that is just so obvious that it's not worth even having a
that you shouldn't
about.
Even have to say it because everybody can see it.
Right.
But we've come to a point in time where I think even things that we see can get twisted, manipulated, and the truth about what we've all seen is changed.
Yeah. And the Greeks are going to take these two ideas and they're going to go
split them.
They're going to go way deeper. Okay. It's the Greeks that actually are the first ones to go, no, truth, there's a lot more going on with the idea of truth.
Okay. There was a quote I wrote down the other day because I it just kind of struck me as a truth, which is the truth is never about what should have happened. It's what did happen.
Right.
So it's not what you want it to be or to have been. But that's when memory comes in and plays a part, because sometimes your memory will remember things.
I have a perfect memory. I never.
No, you do not. No, you do not. You are human, and therefore the truth is that we don't. Our brains, well,
who told you?
Science. I listen to the science, not political science.
No, you don't want to listen to that.
Not political science.
God, no.
Fauci is in trouble. He's in trouble. People are questioning that man's truth.
Well, and they probably should.
They should. He has many of them that contradict. Okay, so back to the beginning. I have an article that says that lying started, goes all the way back to Adam and Eve.
Ooh.
That was the first grand lie.
The first grand lie
that we know about. Yeah. That darn snake.
The snaky snake.
He was a sneaky snake.
That's just unfortunate.
What? That it's all built on.
It's all built on a lie.
On mistrust, and you alter the language and it changes the severity of what you're saying. Misinformation or a lie, which is worse.
Well, but who committed the lie?
Well, the snake.
Really?
Yeah, and then she deceived Adam through a lie of omission.
I think the snake was probably pretty forthright in what they were attempting to do.
You think? Well, no, not to her. She was naive. She did not have knowledge. Victim. That was the whole point.
She was a victim.
She was naive
and
ignorant to what was about to happen. And then she misled Adam by denying part of the story.
Right.
Lies of omission are still lies.
That's true.
If you read it, that's one-sided, that's biased. But aren't we intelligent enough to question that?
Well, we should be without getting too emotionally involved, but unfortunately, we're emotional creatures.
Yeah. I've got some things about the psychology of lies and how we justify to ourselves, for emotional.
Oh, thank God I can lie to myself. Oh, God. You know how hard it'd be to get through this world if you actually were honest with yourself all the time.
Huck Finn says you can't pray a lie.
Yeah, well.
You can't pray a lie.
So, yeah, anyway.
All right. So what do you want to go to things that we believe as people, lose most of the heat through the top of your head?
Well, let's talk a little more about the
history.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's not that big a deal. We because the question I had was one of when the Greeks got a hold of truth and they began trying to figure out, what is truth. They have these guys called sophists. They were the first ones, and
spelled similar to Sophocles.
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, sophists were in search of what is truth.
Okay, the core.
Yes, and trying to figure that out. And Socrates comes along and says that absolute truth, whatever that is knowable, and then we communicate best when we communicate only truth.
Well, then we're not communicating very well now because everybody has their own truth.
Well, isn't that the problem?
It is.
He didn't help. He made a platitude, but it doesn't really help you.
Well, look, if they wrestled with it and we're still wrestling with it, then we're never going to get there as a species.
Well, that's true. And now Socrates...
Is that true?
Socrates had a student named Plato who said we can arrive at the truth, and the way we do it is dialectic, questioning and testing.
Questioning, yeah.
Together, the two of them said that wisdom is not based on possessing truth. Wisdom is on being aware of one's ignorance of it. And then pursuing... And then always pursuing answering
the question, yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's what I did that at the beginning of the year with my students. Structured thinking. You have a problem. Let's try to solve that problem through questioning, right?
Right. And that's why Socrates ended up getting smacked around, though, because the sophists were in charge kind of this philosophical idea.
And it was their truth they wanted.
Well, they believed that sophists were people who believed that the way you got to the truth was through debate and logical twisting of language, and somehow you could
besting your
debating competing narratives.
Verbal opponent?
Yes.
Well, I mean, okay, isn't that what the presidential debates are? So we can see how each candidate handles that kind of situation, because you got to be quick.
Sophists say that's practical truth. That's a truth that you can't come to without rhetoric and being able to verbally counter.
Yeah, well, and they're all trained in rhetoric and the skills of oratory.
So that's what they were always looking for.
Oration.
The stronger argument through debate. But,
just because you can do that, though, doesn't necessarily mean that you're the most honest and forthright. Maybe it just means you're the best at twisting
And that's what got Socrates in trouble. He got people to start questioning. They weren't debating; they were asking questions.
Yeah.
And if you ask the right questions,
because if you use the Socratic method, then you're never answering. I don't answer questions; I only ask them.
Well, you know what happened? People in power started getting young upstarts going, "Hey,
what about
this?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Where'd you get an idea like that?" Well, this guy Socrates is talking down in the Agora, and. He sounds pretty wise. I've been listening to a lot of what he says, and then that guy goes, "Have you heard about this Socrates guy?
You need to send some people down there to shut that shit down.
Break his legs. Just get him." So that's the sophists.
Okay,
sophists supposedly could make anybody believe anything.
Well, then modern media just studied that.
Well, that's where we're going.
Advertising and we've talked about the news becoming entertainment, not news in the 70s, and that shifted the economic drive of newscasters.
Well, that's been the last,
so at the point where those two, advertising and news, came together in order to make a profit, and we started getting, entertainment news.
Entertainment news.
Well,
think about
we were going to hell from that point on.
Right. Well, in that where do Americans, if you're going to talk about truth, and that's been the big fight recently with politics, right? And division of the country. If we want to move
we've clearly seen it since then, into
a more modern era, right?
Okay.
And so people will figure this out, and everything will be fine, right? Right away, here soon, everything's gonna get better. And there was a story I read, just to bring it up to a more modern time, about Nazi Germany after the war.
Oh, yeah, this was really interesting.
And the question was, how do societies recover after years of lies? So now remember, in our country right now, both sides believe the other side is always lying.
Yes.
No matter what.
Well, we still have flat earthers out there, so that's not surprising.
I know, it's kind of bizarre. But it had to do with Germany after World War II. You might think after World War II, while they were sitting around looking at their country that had been laid waste because of the Nazi scourge, that they would have been very knowing about who was responsible for the war.
Yeah, and wanting to clean up that image.
And it turns out that didn't happen. It was years before Germans began to take credit, I guess, for World War II. Margaret Bork-White, the famous photographer, in 1946 discovered that this just wasn't true, that a woman she talked to said, that they were convinced that Germany was not responsible for World War II. And it was not until 1960 that half of Germans believed Germany was responsible for the war.
I bet you still find some old folks there
I'm sure.
that are still convinced that it wasn't them.
It wasn't until nearly 1970 that 2/3 of the country believed it. So, good and well, there's people that don't believe it.
Oh, yeah.
And it also turned into a thing where they said, well, let's see how far this goes. So for the idea, again, of how do you recover from a country that's just full of lies, it wasn't until the 60s that the majority of Germans began to say, that, we were sort of bad.
Sort of responsible.
About what happened to the Jews.
So who did they think was responsible?
Well, they don't look at it that way.
They don't have a scapegoat for that. They just, so that's the psychological, emotional.
Well, here's the thing, though. In 1961, 75% of Germans said, when polled, believed still that Jews were of a different race, and they continued to perceive Jews as the Nazis had painted them, namely a race apart, not German, and certainly not welcome.
But
that was I mean,
yeah,
75% still believed it.
Generations. It's generational. It's that hand-me-down information from your ancestors that somehow you hold on to. We'd like to believe,
even when confronted by
the truth,
the camps.
Yeah,
and they're still going to be like, no.
You justify it, and that's part of emotional reasoning. Psychologically, you'd like to think that we can't be swayed by our emotions like that, but we absolutely are. We'd like to think that we're logical and reasonable people, but unfortunately, that's just not the case.
No.
Our emotional, because we need to justify in our head. If I feel this way about something, then I'm going to justify or twist everything factual presented to me to fit my narrative. And
right.
That helps us. I mean, that allows us to confirmation bias, We seek out information that supports what we already believe, and especially what we feel.
Well, that's part of the issue, isn't it?
It is. Well, you said it in the definition. Belief. Truth is our belief. I mean, when we listened to Colbert, when we heard Colbert say that night, we were ecstatic because it brought a label to what we had been talking about already.
As a matter of fact, you're correct.
I know I'm correct.
And that brings us to tonight's word. Truthiness. Now, I'm sure some of the word police, the wordinistas over at Webster's, are going to say, hey, that's not a word. Well, anybody who knows me know that I'm no fan of dictionaries or reference books. They're elitist, constantly telling us what is or isn't true or what did or didn't happen. Who's Britannica to tell me the Panama Canal was finished in 1914? If I want to say it happened in 1941, that's my right. I don't trust books. They're all fact, no heart. And that's exactly what's pulling our country apart today. Because face it, folks, we are a divided nation. Not between Democrats and Republicans or conservatives and liberals or tops and bottoms. No. We are divided between those who think with their head and those who know with their heart. Consider Harriet Miers. If you think about Harriet Miers, of course her nomination's absurd. But the president didn't say he thought about his selection. He said this.
I know her heart.
Notice how he said nothing about her brain? He didn't have to. He feels the truth about Harriet Miers. And what about Iraq? If you think about it, maybe there are a few missing pieces to the rationale for war. But doesn't taking Saddam out feel like the right thing? Right here? Right here in the gut? Because that's where the truth comes from, ladies and gentlemen. The gut. Do you know you have more nerve endings in your stomach than in your head? Look it up. Now, somebody's gonna say, I did look that up and it's wrong. Well, mister, that's because you looked it up in a book. Next time, try looking it up in your gut. I did. And my gut tells me that's how our nervous system works. Now, I know some of you may not trust your gut yet, but with my help, you will. The truthiness is anyone can read the news to you. I promise to feel the news at you.
Oh, my Lord. Stephen Colbert from the Colbert Show.
That was years ago.
Back when he used to be funny. And
yeah, but he was playing a role.
I see the dogs are going off again.
Well, Bella knows he's faking. Bella is she's upset by his inaccuracies.
But by the way, Harriet Miers had been nominated to be a judicial court judge, Supreme Court judge,
at that time.
Associate Justice, and she had never been a judge ever. He nominated somebody who had never, ever, and she'd only been a process lawyer, So when they questioned her in the Senate, she couldn't answer simple constitutional questions.
She didn't practice.
Right.
She's like Kamala Harris. She's not prepared.
Well, she was prepared to make decisions based on her gut.
On her feelings.
Yes.
And she thought that would get her through.
Her heart.
In that kind of situation.
Even Republicans went, no.
No, I don't think so.
No, George, you got to find somebody else.
Well, he's right, though. I mean,
there you go.
Anybody can write a book.
Anybody can.
And put words down and say things.
And isn't that what the problem is now?
Anybody can write a book. Anybody can publish their own book. We can put anything out there.
People can even have their own podcast.
Anybody can do it. It doesn't take all that much. Just a little stimulus check.
Yeah. I mean, honestly.
And then you got it.
There you go. COVID. Thank you, COVID.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, we'd like to believe in a coherent, logical world, and it's just not true.
Well,
but we're pattern seekers. I mean, as human beings, that's part of what we do. We like to see, consistency, and we like
stability.
We're so far from that.
And we haven't had it in a while.
No, it's been so.
Which kind of brings us to, I guess, to the social media side of it.
Oh, dear Lord.
I mean, that hasn't helped when it comes to truth.
The psychological side of says the changing landscape of truth, social media's slippery slope.
Yeah.
Right?
Well.
Yeah, it's compounded the problem of fake news, right? I mean, there have always been those things.
Well, and the problem, too, just the term fake news.
Yeah.
There are people who don't believe anything on the news is true.
But things get twisted so often, and then you believe something for a while, and then all of a sudden somebody says that's not true, but it's already become kind of ingrained in your psyche, and you still say those things.
Well, you find that kind of stuff out as you grow up too. I mean, we just did a show about the Pilgrims and people who are suddenly discovering that it wasn't all
true that
cranberry
way.
Sauce and turkey.
Well, the legend, right? We turned it into a myth.
Well, yeah.
And there's something
but
there.
taught it as truth, which is probably a bad thing. And and so again, we're still trying to hit this nail on the head that what is truth, and for a long time in media, there was a rule that you had to give equal and fair coverage to
both sides,
to news stories.
Well, that's how I was raised, and that's what I believed. Daddy and I would always watch the national news together, and that was the one thing he would always instruct, and they'd give an editorial at some point at the end.
But you knew it was an editorial.
But that's exactly it. He said, now the reporter's going to give us his opinion,
Right.
And you had trusted newscasters. You weren't worried about them only providing you with part of the story.
And more importantly, they still weren't, at that time, they weren't
in it for a profit.
Funded by the entertainment division of the major networks.
They weren't required to make a profit.
Right. And that was the thing. It was to do the best journalism, just that they were like a newspaper, but on TV.
Yes.
And their goal originally had been to provide news and information that people could use, and in an unbiased way. They were always really big. They used to be really big about being unbiased. But once the corporate America got its hooks into these television stations and wanted a profit, the advertising dollar, and they was shooting for a specific demographic.
And then our newscaster became somebody that was looked up to and idolized, or they had to have a certain look, and because they need to be pleasing.
And they're always trying to bend to whatever the newest thing is.
The feel of the nation.
Right.
Well, it used to be the nation. Now it's no longer the feel of the country. Now it's the feel of, I don't know, pharmaceutical company or whoever's paying the bills.
Right. But it's not something you can actually verifiably prove. Just because everything on a station is sponsored by Pfizer doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't do a critical story of Pfizer if, because they want to be fair and balanced, and in news, that's still the rule, right?
You're talking back then.
Well, back then, I'm sure that
because I'm not seeing
Edward R. Murrow is a good example.
Yeah, let's go back to somebody who was a reputable before Walter Cronkite.
before Walter Cronkite,
because Walter was my guy during my childhood.
What did he say?
He said a lot.
He did, but this is a good one. American traditions and the American ethic require us to be truthful. But the most important reason is that truth is the best propaganda and lies are the worst. To be persuasive, we must be believable. To be believable, we must be credible. And to be credible, we must be truthful. It's as simple as that. So there you go. That's a newsman. We must be truthful. We pursue the truth, even if we don't like it. But you know that that's not how it works now.
Well, no, because you know that Americans don't always want to hear the truth because it doesn't fit emotionally, or you don't want to stress it. Well, no, they do want to stress us out. I mean, it's fear porn. We've talked about that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not that they don't mind upsetting us or keeping us in a constant state of chaos, which they absolutely do. And, well, on a psychological level, that's very damaging. And when you don't know what to believe and you can't trust anybody, I mean, look, our most basic relationships are built on trust.
Yeah.
So the relationship that we as citizens have with our country, we're in trouble.
I think so. Let me do one more real quick because it kind of leads us on to the next thing. Edward R. Murrow again. It will be a dangerous day for American broadcasting if we ever reach the point where they who have the most money are allowed to dominate the marketplace of ideas. Ooh, that hasn't happened. Thank goodness that hasn't happened.
Well, it did. It happened in the 70s, and now it's just...
But now we have social media, and we have companies controlling that, and they do control it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they're free countries, again. That's always the argument, right? They're companies, they can do what they want. But clearly, they do have agendas. There's no question they have agendas. And the media has an agenda, one way or the other. Fox News is clearly to the right.
Yeah.
CNN is
and
clearly
then that
to the
confirmation bias, you go to the one that supports the things you believe.
Of course. There's no question that each side believes the other side's news channel, a dominant news channel, is wrong. So the media, the main media, the three networks, try to offer us, you would think, an unbiased view of the news.
You have to go to all three.
Well, you have to hunt around.
You do. You have to hunt around, and that's part of the problem too.
But what if the problem isn't that, but that they no longer believe there are two sides to a story?
I think it's become clearer that fairness is overrated. Well, before you run off and tweet that headline, let me explain a bit. The idea that we should always give two sides equal weight and merit does not reflect the world we find ourselves in. That the sun sets in the west is a fact. Any contrary view does not deserve our time or attention. Now, I know recent events assure that you won't have to look far to find more current and relevant examples. I think you get my point. Decisions to not give unsupported arguments equal time are not a dereliction of journalistic responsibility or some kind of agenda. In fact, it's just the opposite. Providing an open platform for misinformation, for anyone to come say whatever they want, especially when issues of public health and safety are at stake, can be quite dangerous. Our duty is to be fair to the truth. Holding those in power accountable is at the core of our function and responsibility. We need to hear our leaders' views, their policies and reasoning. It's really important, but we have to stand ready to push back and call out falsehoods.
He was winning when he made that speech. He had won the Edward R. Murrow Award for journalism.
Yeah. Like he's going out
and pursuing stories.
Yes. Like the absolute truth.
Murrow stood on a building while the city around him was being bombed by the Germans, reporting.
What'd you do, Lester? I don't know Lester's history, so maybe I shouldn't comment on Lester.
Well, I think he's gone dangerous places, but I don't think he was ever standing on top of a building while bombs were raining down around him.
And on the surface, what he said, you can go like, okay, yeah,
it sounds reasonable.
It sounds really intelligent and reasonable.
Okay, but he said...
But there were certain things, there were key words in there.
There is no question, and look, again, not to jump into the whole Trumpy thing, but there's no question that the media was ready to go after Trump day one.
Oh, yeah.
They were very upset that he had won. I think a lot of the media,
but once
because they tend to lead to the left.
They do, but once they saw all the fodder that they were going to get from his presidency, I think they just enjoyed the whole battle.
They might have.
Information
but I still
warfare.
think that the vast majority of them wanted Hillary to win and expected Hillary to win.
Oh, yeah. I think the country expected Hillary to win. I thought that's what was going to happen.
A man that was built by media.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in the 70s.
They built him.
We watched him.
And then we get pissed off when their creation takes over. Yeah.
Well.
But anyway, so the media, don't expect the media to be completely unbiased anymore simply because of the money involved in producing news.
No, because it is
and
information. It is information warfare. And an Israeli intelligence officer in an article in the New Yorker magazine said that now you can just do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want with the advent of the internet. We have now a new arsenal of tools for manipulation. You know, everything from hacking, aliases, bots, websites that don't go anywhere, that aren't legit, fabricated content, social media avatars posting fake news. I mean,
we're being hammered.
Endless. We are being gaslighted. I say it every flipping day now.
You know, you say that, but young people probably have no idea what that means.
No, they do. It's a resurgence of that term. I mean, I'm using it because I grew up watching Hitchcock and reading.
Well, the movie.
Yeah.
Gaslight.
Well, yeah. But no, they've taken that now. I'm seeing that come up more and more, that they do understand. And we can't stay in this constant state of not trusting and not believing because everything now is questioned.
Well, you remember what they say. If you can't beat them with the truth, baffle them with bullshit.
Well, we've been baffled with bullshit since before Barnum. I had an article here about Barnum.
But, it goes back like to the UFO sightings in the 50s. That's the first time that I've ever consciously understood how if you barrage people with enough
and just
bullshit,
keep those stories out there.
Can't find the light of day.
Exactly. Well, in 2002, there was a story from a flight from Scandinavia to the U.S. where they said a woman had to be pried by a rescue team from a high-pressure vacuum flush that sealed her to the toilet on the Boeing 767. That was the story that came out in January. It was featured in dozens of newspapers, websites, TV reports. Reuters said the unnamed woman had filed a complaint with the airlines. They had quotes from technicians, and, it just by all appearances was a legit story. Finally, days later, it turned out to be untrue. The airline claimed it was a combination of a fictional exercise from staff training with something similar that had happened, a real thing. But nobody ever filed a complaint. But the Sky story.
So the incident itself.
Yeah, Sky toilet story has stuck. People still believe it. It's a great story. It just never happened, And there are tons of those urban legends where there might be some sort of grain in there, but things got me. And we just, as humans, don't let that go.
Well, the story about I can't think of her name now, in New York, where supposedly all the people heard her being
Kitty
Genovese.
Yeah. I did that with my students. Yeah, because that she apparently yelled.
And that story was everybody knew that woman was killed, and people heard it and did nothing.
And see what's happened to society. That was the whole point of that. But that was the news reporter. She consciously crafted that, created that lie, printed that story, and had people up in arms.
So again, not true at all.
But she had an agenda.
And she made something that was untrue in most people's minds true.
And I don't know what her motivation was, whether it was
to make society better
or to make a name for herself.
Because they even used that incident to create Good Samaritan laws in states.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen.
And it never happened.
So did that lie help? I mean, our Good Samaritan laws, I guess they're okay.
I have no idea.
I don't know why we had to make a law for people to do what's right. But if somebody, you see an accident or something and you don't get involved because you're scared you're going to get hurt, well, you can't be. I mean, can you be held accountable now? I don't know.
I don't know. We had an incident, and this is what I know of the story. When I was in high school here in Lake Charles, the mayor's wife choked in a restaurant. and nobody helped her. Like, there were apparently doctors in the room. Now, this is the story that I was told.
That can't be true.
At the time, she ended up in a coma and then eventually died. I mean, I went to school with her siblings.
Oh.
I mean, not her siblings, her children.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and that was apparently the story at the time.
True.
I would hope that's not true, too. But here I am at my age.
Are you kidding? I'm not helping her. I'm a doctor. I could be sued.
Well, yeah, and that was the reason given in the story that was related to several of us.
Right.
Whether or not that was the actual truth, I still don't know to this day.
We got so much that we don't know.
But it's part of, and I don't know how to go about looking it up. I'd have to actually consciously ask a former, classmate, "Hey, did so and so's mother actually, is this what occurred?" She did die. She was in a restaurant when
that's
whatever
that's
happened.
A factual
so
truth.
That part of it.
That is a truth.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, had you heard that Snapple was owned by the KKK?
I didn't hear that, actually.
Oh, okay. Now it's supposedly run by Osama bin Laden.
Isn't he dead? They say he is. But you noticed even that story when it came out, there were like two guys or three guys that were all saying they were the ones that shot him, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, and what's the purpose? So does motivation matter when people are telling
is he dead?
lies
yes. Okay,
or they're telling things they think are true, they believe are true? Right.
Man, and people's memory especially is one of those weird ones where you absolutely convinced something happened and it did not happen.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
And you take it from dreams. Another part of our truths come from our dreams and they become part of our memory.
Sometimes your brain files it away as an actual thing that happened.
Yeah. Isn't that terrifying? So what do we ever believe? I don't know. I'm ready for meta. I'm doing it.
Well, but meta, we had a thing earlier talking about meta, but talking about truth, though, before we go into meta, we can wrap up with meta.
Okay.
We have this thing about, we have the pandemic. The pandemic has certainly made news worse.
Oh, yeah. Pandemic apparently has made us all exhausted. 3 in 5 Americans are exhausted.
Well, I think there's a reason for that. Listening to another podcast, the great, amazing podcast, No Agenda. I heard something.
Yes, I know you like your guys.
I heard something there, and they provide show notes and all kinds of good stuff, so you can find things.
Yeah, they actually have their shit together.
Maybe people are exhausted because of basically since the pandemic started, or better yet, since the vaccine came out. That's really, but we know it started before that with the, 2 weeks.
Maybe the 3 in 5 who are exhausted got the shot.
Well, it started with the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. God, that was the first big one, right?
Oh, I remember all that.
Put on a mask, wash your hands, and in 2 weeks, we'll all go back to normal. Well, that didn't work out very well. So eventually we got the vaccine, and the vaccine was going to be the winner. And we were always told, listen to the science. Listen to the science. Science is truthful. Science is factual. So whatever they say is true. Well, over the last 2 years, it went like this.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
These vaccines are highly, highly effective.
Vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
Everyone who takes the vaccine is not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal.
Get your first shot, and when you're due for your second, get your second shot.
Our key goal is to stop the transmission, to get the immunity levels up so that you get almost no infection going on whatsoever.
When people are vaccinated, they can feel safe that they are not going to get infected.
If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die. If you are fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask.
Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing.
But what they can't do anymore is prevent transmission.
We didn't have vaccines that block transmission. We got vaccines that help you with your health, but they only slightly reduce transmissions. We need a new way of doing the vaccine.
The level of virus in the nasopharynx of a person who's vaccinated and infected is the same level as the level of virus in the nasopharynx of an unvaccinated person.
Reports from our international colleagues, including Israel, suggest increased risk of severe disease amongst those vaccinated early.
And if you look at Israel, which has always been a month to a month and a half ahead of us, they are seeing a waning of immunity, not only against infection, but against hospitalizations and to some extent death. The booster might actually be an essential part of the primary regimen that people should have.
Plan is for every adult to get a booster shot.
Clearly one of the best investments I've ever been involved in.
No, I'll bet.
Yeah. Well, now it's
one of the best investments I've ever been involved in.
It's like the guy in New Zealand I told you about today who went 10 times in the same day and used other people's identities and got booster shots. 10 in one day.
10 shots in one day.
But the story didn't say.
Did he mix them up?
No, it didn't. It didn't say what brand he got, and it didn't say.
I wonder if this is true.
Well, okay, I read it today.
Yeah, I know. See,
New Zealand, and he got 10 shots, but I want him studied. What happens medically when you get 10 in one day?
I can tell you what.
Because that's unethical for them to do scientifically, but he already did it, so we might as well find out.
They come out in 2 weeks and say his Johnson grew by 3 inches. You'll see guys lined up around the block
getting it. All the men. Oh my Lord. Okay. All right. I want to be fair. I want to be fair and unbiased. If they said that it would make women's busts grow, they would also line up. Oh, women would. Okay.
Guys had to. You see what I was trying to make fair and balanced.
Oh, balanced. Okay, but you've left out other genders?
See, that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, that is a whole nother
Gender
issue.
is language, people. Gender is language. Sex is, well,
okay,
organs.
You left out theys.
Theys?
Mm-hmm. Thems and theys.
Thems and theys.
Yeah.
I don't know about them.
Oh, but that's the pronoun that I got.
What would they say about me not knowing about them?
I don't know. Why don't you ask Dave Chappelle?
That's so much social media news now.
He's dug himself a
You've got Erdogan.
Terrible. Okay, so wait.
Erdogan in Turkey is upset about social media, saying they're providing they're horrible, unfactual information. But he has a solution.
What?
He's going to create a government body that will determine what the truth is. And if you say something in the media that's not fitting in their agenda,
their truth,
then by God, you'll pay a fine and go to prison. That'll teach you.
Oh.
Wait a minute.
1984?
Yeah, that's weird.
it's unspeak. Jeez.
We call it GovFear.
So is Bigfoot real?
No.
But we still have that. They did shows. They did a television show that lasted, I don't know.
They left Danishes out for him.
Do you want me to Google how long the Bigfoot show was on?
I don't. God,
in search of Bigfoot?
That'll just make me sad.
Okay, hang on. Okay, I'm going to find out. So, because I really wonder if we know it's not true, but they did a whole show about it that lasted,
Well, what I can't account for what some people believe, but I just don't buy the whole Bigfoot thing. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't either, but society as a whole seems, Loch Ness, I know that's not true. I know why they did it, and yet they
went out in the woods, in the thick woods of Washington State or Oregon, one of the two, and they found the death hornet that they were talking about for a while.
6 years.
6 years.
6 years in the finding Bigfoot.
Couldn't find him. They found that those devil hornets or whatever they're called, the big giant hornets, they found their nest within 6 months. You mean to tell me they can find that?
But they can't find
they can't find the Bigfoot.
Well, but Bigfoot is thinking. He's sentient. So he's actively escaping, actively evading.
That big thing actively escaping.
I don't know.
And by now, if he was out there, some hunter would have seen him and shot him.
So we have all these ghost shows. We have all these. And that was always my thing with the people who were fans of the ghost shows. Like, do you not think if we actually had really found a ghost, without argument, that it wouldn't be all over the news?
Yeah, I don't buy it.
But they do these shows and people watch.
I don't buy the.
All right,
I don't buy the ghost nonsense either.
I don't think we're going to get to the truth of any of that.
I don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah, we're going to continue to believe.
I don't believe in magic. That's not true. You can't. Now, here's the thing. I believe in sleight of hand and magic as we call it, performed by a person.
That's deception.
But that's just deception.
I don't care for magicians.
Deception.
I don't like parades. I don't like magicians.
Well, remember what you do with parades. You just go the other way and then it fast forwards.
Yeah, you try to although Animal House Parade, I did like that parade.
Yeah, I'm not a parade fan either.
But no, I don't care for that.
And people are like, oh, you get candy. Yeah,
it's
I'm
my truth.
I can just buy candy.
No, although we did take our kids to Mardi Gras when they were little.
That's different. Because when you got kids, you do stuff you don't want to do all the time.
Yes, you do.
I didn't want to wipe their butts, but that's just kind of
for the
part
memories.
Of the deal.
You got to have the memories.
But so what are we going to do about this truth thing then?
We're going to continue to struggle as humans.
So meta, we're all going to go into the metaverse,
and
we're going to have little blocky avatars.
Well, your avatar,
and you'll be able to be anything you want.
You can craft your own truth, and you can make your world fit your truth.
You mean I could be a lady?
You could. You would be sexy.
Oh yeah.
But you got to shave that beard off, and then I want a wig on you. Shoulder length,
heavy blue eyeshadow.
Shoulder length. It's going to have to be a lighter color hair because you've got that pale white skin.
I would make an ugly woman. Now, a little avatar, it doesn't matter. You can just make it whatever you want, right?
I'm going to be hippie but thin.
Oh, you want the ratio? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
the ratio.
I'm not going to deny my hips.
Hips don't lie.
That's where I was going. Damn it. Damn it.
Beat you to it.
I know. I don't have a button. I can't rickroll you.
Yeah. Well, I got to be honest. I guess I should come clean. I shaved my head. I actually have a full head of hair.
I was terrified to shave that off of you the first time.
Yeah. Well.
After we decided, you know what, I think you might look cooler and younger if we just shave it all off. But I was so nervous.
It turned out to be true.
It turned out to be true.
At least at the time.
But you were still a little early, so you kind of got that skinhead vibe.
Yeah, I caught a little flack right at first.
Because
Well, mainly from the restaurant.
Initially, you're kind of intimidated.
The restaurant I worked at, a couple of the brothers were a little leery.
But they knew. But once you spend some time with people,
I just flat told them. I said, no, it's not that. I said,
it's practical.
You know what? If you're bald and you've got that little patch of hair around your head, but with nothing on top, I mean, just
is that how we craft our truth as well? Like by what we put forth, you know, the way you dress, the way you present yourself. I mean, if I want to have blue hair,
think about the word bald. Look, he's bald.
That's negative.
He might have hair on some of his head. Or look at him. He's bald and have no hair on his head. Both things
are true.
Yeah.
It's a measure. It's a
you know what? We're getting
close to an hour.
Yeah,
I know. Okay, so because we haven't solved any real truths, except that we're being manipulated all the time. The end of the psychological story that I read about how this affects us constantly questioning and not knowing what is actual truth, and then it lists like 5 things that we should be doing, and basically all of them require a good deal of time, fact checking, reading multiple,
right?
You know. When I can't even scroll a website once I've searched for a blanket because I've got 80 ads in a 10-minute period for blankets.
The best blankets. Every one of them is the best blanket.
So I look up something about, you know, fear porn, and now my my advertisements are
be careful.
I can't do that. And this crap is linked to my school stuff, and
not anymore.
Yeah, I go back to school and I open my browser and it's like the last thing I searched for at home.
Oh, that's because of your Microsoft OneDrive sharing every bit of information it possibly has.
But that's my point. Everything is all interlinked.
Well, no, here, your OneDrive, you can turn off your school OneDrive.
I do, but then it comes back on all on its own. Computers are doing shit behind our back.
Well, just turn it off.
Just like the weather, and we have no control. Speaking of the weather, I know it's a downer, but those poor people who just experienced all those storms in this area.
That was horrible.
There's no measure of this is worse and this, you know, disaster is worse than this. That we've already talked about that.
What is true is a bunch of people are suffering.
Are homeless and communityless. I mean, they don't have anything. Their town is gone, and that happened in a 3 blocks from our son and his wife's.
No, not that big giant one.
No, not the big giant one. They had tornadoes in their area though that night.
They were close. They weren't that. Is that close? But down the road was
their little family has been waiting so long to get in a home, and 4 years, and that was terrifying.
It was.
And you know what? There's a truth right there.
Mm-hmm.
You want a truth? That's a truth, that there are people suffering and there are people there helping.
And we know that, and that's
maybe that's it. Maybe that's the only truth. You know, we've got layers and layers of nonsense, as Thornton Wilder said in Our Town, when it comes to humans. And
the new thing for me with news is it worth knowing?
Yeah.
Do I need to know this?
Should
I know this?
Their tagline says, all the news you need to know.
I don't want them deciding.
But they do decide.
I know that. We report, you decide. No.
And it's too much to go digging.
You decide and then report. That's really what's happening, you know.
They don't go dig up stories.
Not really. They would wait for things to happen or wait to see it on Twitter.
Them. Yeah, somebody calls them and says, hey.
Twitter. Oh, the Twitter story.
Nancy Pelosi's makeup was smeared.
None of that stuff matters. If it's not that important, it just doesn't matter. If you see it, you can read it, but I just don't accept anything as true if it doesn't. There's a innate bullshit.
It doesn't fit your emotional.
No, there's a bullshit meter.
Oh, there's a book called Bullshit, and it's all about that.
And I have a pretty decent bullshit meter.
I do too.
Especially when it comes to media.
My dad was very skeptical.
Occasionally, I get bullshitted, and that's fine. You know, it happens. Everybody should get bullshitted occasionally. I myself have been known to fling the bullshit.
Oh, thick and sticky.
And that's okay. A lot of times for humorous purposes.
Well, yeah, and that's fine if people know you. Yeah. That's the problem with the internet too, is they don't know.
See the face.
And not very many people. I have hundreds of people, but they don't all know me.
I'm sure there are things I say that if you can see wearing masks was rough.
Yeah,
man.
That was hard on me too.
I couldn't use my sarcasm.
I am just a smile magnet. I can't not smile most of the time.
I use my facial expressions to let the kids know when I am in effect bullshitting.
Yes.
And so.
If there's no dimple, he's telling the truth.
It's a problem. So, anyway.
Yes. So
all right. Well, there we go. We once again have solved nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Excellent.
People, life is difficult. You got to find your balance. And when it all gets too much, just turn it off and go outside. Go sit with your family.
Stroke a furry wall.
Stroke a furry wall. You need a Jeffrey. We all need a big,
the whole
fat
world
Jeffrey
needs a Jeffrey.
And a furry wall.
That's so
I have a furry carpet.
All right. Well,
and a new bed.
Yeah. Adjustable.
This community is sleeping.
Put 4 wheels on it. It would be equal to a used car in cost.
And it's expensive.
In fact, I feel like putting tires on it just so I can justify the expense.
I want to show it off. Yes. Well, community. Hope you have a great week.
Me too. I actually
see you in 2. School will be out.
We're going to be having hopefully real soon the gentleman that created my opening number, Landon Blood, coming in, and maybe he'll regale us with a tune.
G-Long's going to have a guest. I don't know if I need to participate.
And we're going to talk just general stuff, but he's a great musical artist and he's local. And I imagine if you got little needs and stuff, he'd be more than happy to work with you.
In fact, you're going to play out our version that he gave us.
That's right. In fact, it's going to happen right now.
Push the button.